Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Yes, indeed, this is a radio show. And if you're listening on your local radio station, you're going, well, of course it's a radio show. What else would it be? I have to say that, though, because in today's world, people get confused. And I get that. You know, if you're not in the world of radio or the world of media or the world of broadcasting, you know, you hear what you hear and it's like, okay, where did I see that? When did I see it? How did I watch it? And it doesn't matter to you, right? I get that. I do the same thing with TV shows. Oh, where'd you see that? I don't remember. But this is first and foremost a radio show. I've been doing this for a long, long time now. There is a podcast version of the show that's available. Got to do podcasts, right? If you don't do podcasts, you're not relevant these days. Some of the biggest media sources out there are podcasts. So, yeah, I tap into that as well. But first and foremost, this is a radio show. I'm here every week for 3 hours talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here, primarily in the great state of Michigan. I saw a comment online not too long ago. Somebody said, hey, yeah, that Avery show is not a bad show, but... And they were complaining, but it's all about Michigan. Yep, it pretty much is. It's all about Michigan. We've got enough going on here that I can fill a 3-hour weekly radio show. I could fill my old News 5 outdoors reports. I could pretty much fill the Outdoor Magazine TV show with things just here in Michigan. We're blessed here. We're lucky here. We got a lot going on. And what's going on right now? Well, I guess it depends on what you're into. I don't know if by the time you hear this radio show, there will be ice. And that's the first time I've said that in several years, this time in the month of December. By the way, welcome to the month of December. It's been cold, and the forecast looks like it's going to be cold for a while. Good for making ice. So maybe you're jonesing to get out on the early ice. Maybe you're still out there saying, don't come yet, ice. I'm enjoying my late season trolling. Maybe you're looking forward to the December pheasant season, rabbit season, squirrel season. My son James was over the other day, and we were talking about deer hunting and how it's been a really good season for our family. I mean, I didn't take a buck. I'm the only one who didn't take a buck, but I did take a doe, and that was my goal for the year. Everybody else is shooting bucks. Trent, my grandson, shot a buck and a doe, so there's a lot of venison around. Yeah, we got a lot of venison. Plus, finally picked up my bear from Michigan Brand, so we got bear meat, we got venison. We're in pretty good shape. But James and I were talking about deer season and how by the end of deer season, sometimes you're just kind of a little bit burned out. You've had enough of it, and me more so than most people, I get that. And he said, wouldn't it be fun just to pick up a .22 and go out in the woods and sit there and hunt squirrels? And I thought, man, I think you're onto something there. In today's world, and I am just as guilty of this as anybody, we, being hunters and the outdoor media primarily is what I'm talking about right now, tend to concentrate on, say, big game. Now, in the springtime, yeah, we'll talk about turkey hunting for sure. I'm going to talk about me right here now, right? I talk about walleye fishing, I talk about turkey hunting, I talk about bear hunting, and I talk a little bit about deer hunting because those are the things that I do. Those are the things that I love. And it's human nature that you would talk about the things that you do. I only rarely talk about pheasant hunting and rabbit hunting and squirrel hunting and grouse hunting and woodcock hunting, which is shame on me. You know, Michigan has some of the best upland bird hunting in the country, and I don't talk about it that much. But, you know, I remember as a kid growing up, when it got to be September 15th, I was in the woods with a .22 or shotgun hunting squirrels. And it used to be the season ended, what did it end? November 14th, maybe? Don't hold me to that. But then it didn't reopen like it does now. I think it was done at the end of the year, January 1st. I don't know. But you couldn't hunt into late into the year like we do now. My granddad always said, if you can sit quietly enough to shoot a squirrel, you can sit quietly enough to shoot a deer. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, as there is in most of the old sayings from the old timers. But squirrel hunting is a great way to train a hunter for deer hunting. It's pretty much solitary, unless you're hunting with dogs, which is pretty cool. It's just you sitting there being quiet, which is the same thing as deer hunting. You know, again, as a kid growing up, I squirrel hunted, and then I pheasant hunted because we had a lot of birds around. And then we took this little break for deer season. And again, back then, I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing now, but even less of an idea back then. I'd see a scrape or a rub, and I'd go, okay, a deer made that. But I didn't get what it was or why it was there or how it was made or anything like that. If we saw a deer, we were lucky. If you saw a buck with a rack on it, you shot it. If you got a doe tag, you burned it. Those are pretty obsolete ideas now, aren't they? I mean, I went into the woods this fall with the goal of shooting a doe. We got a bunch of does in the Lower Peninsula. But the seasons have changed, haven't they? I mean, we got a little bit of a break now for an archery season, then muzzleloader season comes in. But is it really a muzzleloader season? When I can continue to use my Brenton 350 Legend, a center fire rifle, during muzzleloader season? Is it really a muzzleloader season? It's certainly not a primitive weapons season anymore, is it? And then the late doe season. I love bow hunting. I love the thought of having one shot, up close, personal, and sending an arrow tipped with a broadhead at an animal. I love that. And these days, my bow hunting is, I'll be honest, it's not as pure as it used to be. It's going to be with a crossbow in my hands. But this year, faced with the prospect, do I go back out with a crossbow and limit myself to, 30 yards, 35 yards, whatever the number is? Or do I take the center fire rifle back out and limit myself to, 150 yards? Getting off topic here, but I just something that I remember Fred Bear told me this. He said, you can learn more about deer hunting with a bow in one season than a gun hunter can in his entire life. If a gun hunter sees a deer, he can probably shoot it, he or she. A bow hunter, even a crossbow hunter, needs to get a lot closer. And I'm not sure this late season I want to limit myself. I want to put those kind of constraints on myself. So I will likely be back out there with the Brenton 350 Legend. Now the question is, will I see any deer? Because they've disappeared. On our property, the property we lease, they have disappeared. You'll see them on the cameras at night. But there's no daytime buck activity, very little daytime doe activity. But do you blame them? I mean, they're just coming off a 2-week firearm season. They've been hunted since October 1st or before. Survival says you go nocturnal, right? So it's going to get tough now. It's going to get tough. But if you don't have a deer yet, or you're looking to put more venison in the freezer, you know you can't shoot one unless you're out there. You can't shoot one from the couch. Can't shoot one from your office. Can't shoot one from the shop. You got to be out there. What else? Pure Michigan Hunt. That's coming up here pretty soon. I think the deadline is, and Eric Hilliard of the DNR is on the show later with me to talk more about this. I think the deadline is January 1st. For $5, you can apply for the Pure Michigan Hunt. I am going to win the Pure Michigan Hunt sometime while I'm still on this earth. I'm telling you that right now. I'm interested in the bull elk tag. I am interested in the bear tag. The rest of the tags, like the waterfall stuff, I'll give to you. Licenses in general. There's a proposal out there right now to significantly increase the cost of our hunting and fishing licenses. Some pretty significant. I still think they're a good deal. Regardless of what they do with those prices, I still think they're a good deal. Coming up on this week's radio show, after the break, Joe Marion will join me to talk about staying safe in cold water. Not just early season ice, but late season trolling. Joe should know. He's a retired Coast Guardsman and avid outdoorsman. Then Michigan's meteorologist Mark Torregrossa with an outlook for the wintertime. In our second hour, high-pressure air rifles for hunting. Kent Dalton of the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative. And in hour number 3, Jake Romanack, a Fishing 411, and wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK. That's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is your best bet. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class. And believe me, if he can help this old guy become a licensed charter captain, he can help you as well. John has classes across the state at various times, and I'm sure you can find one that will fit your schedule. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com. That's pmtcaptains.com. Well, it is the time of year now when, with this cold weather that's come in, we don't know if we're looking at, I almost said an early ice fishing season, a normal ice fishing season, I should say, or if you're still out there in the boat trolling, say, Saginaw Bay or Lake Erie, the water's still cold, right? You do not want to end up in the water right now. Joe Marion, a friend of mine, I've known this guy forever. I knew him back when he was active in the Coast Guard. He spent a career in the Coast Guard. And while he was in there, he did a lot of cool things, a lot of interesting things. But one of the things that really gets my attention was he was one of the guys who, I don't want to say convinced the Coast Guard, but was intimately involved in getting the Coast Guard to do ice water rescue training for their people. And Joe's with me now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Hey, Cap, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, Joe. Always a pleasure to talk with you. How have you been, my friend?
Good. Started another new job this year, so it's getting back into the ropes with that has been a little bit taxing on my ability to go fishing and hunting as much as I usually like to.
Well, all right, so that was my next question. Did you get a chance to run charters out of Ludington last season?
Yes, I did run charters. I just didn't run as many. I ran mostly just on weekends. I did a couple during the week that I had scheduled before I picked up the new job. And my new job was flexible, let me still run those. So it was good. I still ran charters, but not as many as I would like to, and definitely not as many as the owner of the boat would have liked me to.
How was the season out there this year?
Was really good. Everybody caught fish. The fish were great size, very cooperative. Mixed bags all season. So it was a very fun year to be on the water.
And what about your deer season? Has the new position allowed you to be out at all?
Yes, I hunted but I get out of work at 4:00, so and my hunting spot's halfway home. So while the daylight was later in the day, I was able to get home and drive out and hunt the evenings. And I've been pretty much trying to get out there every afternoon after work and stuff. But I tell you, I just don't understand deer. 40 years later, and I still don't understand them. I spent a lifetime. My dad, my uncles, and all my friends. We were in the baiting era, and you put bait out, and deer came to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I stood on a cornfield. They cut it the 13th of November. And when I found out is after they had cut it last year, his corn wasn't a good crop, and he needed something. He needed to do something. I figured he wasn't going to plant corn this year, and he still did. He also seeded the field with hog radishes. So once he cut the corn, there's a lot of corn on the ground from the combine spillover, but the whole field is now hog radish too.
Okay.
I'm seeing 3 deer a day.
Oh.
I'm not seeing any deer. I'm not seeing no bucks. I have no clue why they haven't showed up. I don't know what's going on. I have the same 3 does every day for the last month.
Wow.
And I'm hoping snow changes it.
Well, if you're hoping that, I mean, now we've got a little snow, we've got a little cold. If you're hoping for that, it should help. And the same thing with the ice fishermen, Joe. I've got friends who are hardcore ice fishermen who say, man, I hope we get an early ice season, or I hope we actually get an ice fishing season this year. I personally am not an ice fisherman these days, but I respect that they love that and they want to get out there. And it's the first ice is very productive, very effective. But as you know, from your years in the Coast Guard, early ice is not always your friend, is it?
No, it's not. It can be very deceptive. But the quick, hard freeze, clear black ice is your strongest ice. But if you get a freeze with snow during the time frame, and you get what we call a snow ice, that stuff has a lot of air in it, and it can be brittle.
Let's talk more about that, because I don't think everybody realizes this, that ice is not ice is not ice. All ice is not the same.
No, it's not. You get frazzle ice, which is frazzle ice is normally when you start getting a thaw. But as long as our temperatures stay cold like they are, and I'm looking at the next 15 days of nothing higher than 32 degrees here for the Ludington area, we should have some good ice by Christmas. But if
ice, not before, for the folks who like to push it.
Correct. Strap a couple pieces of wood to your feet and push the canoe out. And, I've done that, been there, but it's that ice is the hardest. And you don't need, they're talking, 4 or 5 inches for a person to be on. And I know people that go out there in 2 and 3 inches. Ice is supported by the water. The problem is like Hamlin Lake, they do a drawdown. You get early ice, and then they drill in the drawdown, and then you have an air pocket. That ice isn't going to be safe to walk on. So there's a lot of things to look at and worry about. Like I said, the snow ice, the slush ice is what we also refer to it as. It's not making solid ice because it's got air moved in with it. The snow is pushed in with it, and that ice can be weaker. And from one step, you'd be in 3-4 inches. The next step, 1 inch. And those are things, you carry your spud, check the ice in front of you as you're walking in this early ice, because it's really, really important you stay on that thicker ice that's harder and clear.
You mentioned a spud. I mean, folks have been doing that for generations, but there probably is no better way to check the ice as you're walking out than chunking it every step with a spud, is there?
No better way at all. Even if you think, I'll just cut a hole with my auger every so often, one step to the next can make that difference. And, if you cut a whole line of holes going all the way out to where you're going, you just might cut off the ice.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation because people want to get out there on the ice. They want to take advantage of that first ice. They know it can be very good fishing. You in the Coast Guard rescued a lot of people over the years out there on that first ice, but yet you're also a hardcore angler and you get the appeal of wanting to be out there.
Oh, most definitely. I'm looking for that ice as much as the next person. I mean, deer season comes first, and if I could get a deer or two, I might push that first ice too. But I haven't shot one yet, so I'm still looking at deer season. But I've been out there on that first ice. I've done some really dumb things over my lifetime, and I've looked back at my Coast Guard career and looked back at what I did and said, boy, I really am lucky. And I hope that some people learn from my wisdom a little bit and don't repeat some of the mistakes. And if they do, hope they're just as lucky as I am.
Isn't that interesting, though, that after you have some experiences behind you, you can look back and go, boy, that wasn't the smartest thing I ever did?
No. I think the worst thing I ever did, well, I shouldn't say that. I've ridden one truck to the bottom of Taos Bay. It wasn't very deep, but it wasn't fun.
I got to ask, Joe, how old were you?
19, 20.
A young bulletproof kid.
Always. That's when you can do it the most.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, I've also driven from Linwood to Seaboing across the bay. But back then we had to put extensions on our augers, and ice was almost 4 feet thick. So
well, that's what I was thinking. You say you made that, but if the ice is safe,
yeah,
that's not necessarily a dangerous thing to do to make that trip.
Correct. And nowadays, most people don't even take vehicles on the ice. It's all quads and snowmobiles, four-wheelers, side-by-sides.
Well, I feel like we definitely don't get the ice seasons that we used to, but you would be a better judge of that than I.
It goes in cycles. I think everything goes in cycles. I mean, even if you look at the forecasts over the last 50 years, it's about every 10 years or so that Lake Michigan will freeze all the way across. It's not real thick, but it's a sheet. We get those temperatures. It's always been cyclic. It might not be exactly 10 years, but everything goes in that cycle. We've had a couple of years of really bad ice fishing. We've had some really high water. We've had some really low water. It's you just have to take it for what it's worth. Be smart and don't push your luck.
Well, that's what it comes down to, isn't it? It's using your head and balancing, okay, how bad do I want to get out there and catch those first few fish versus I want to come home to my family again.
Right. Yeah. 2 years ago, I got out ice fishing twice, and last year was only once. And I think it was last year I was out trolling in Ludington Harbor and out on the shoreline. We got 4 browns and a walleye in February. So there's ways of doing things. You just have to be flexible.
Right. Well, and as you say, even if you're not out there in the ice, if we get a year where you're trolling in December or January, that water's still cold.
It is. You're talking 39, 40 degrees being a hot spot. Most of it's 33 degrees, just above freezing mark. But as you go deeper in the wintertime, the surface is 32. The water is warmer as you go down. Unlike the summertime where the warm water is higher, in the wintertime, the warm water is lower.
Well, it when you look at it from the scientific point of view, it's interesting. When you look at it from the pragmatic or practical point of view, it can be, for folks who have done it, it can be a terrifying experience. Hang tight, Joe. We're talking with Joe Marion, retired Coast Guardsman, charter captain, avid outdoorsman, about just keeping your wits about you when you're on early season ice or whether you're trolling late in the year or not. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. More with Joe Marion coming up. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WBCK in Battle Creek, that's 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO, 1360 AM, and WIDL, 92.1 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry on WNBY, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Linwood Beach Marina. Linwood Beach Marina can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination, whether we have ice or not. If we have an ice fishing season, Linwood Beach, a great place to jump out on the bay. If we don't have ice, Linwood Beach keeps their ramps in, keeps their boat launch open as late as they possibly can. Great people, great location, great service. I can't say enough about Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com online. Joe, you did part of your service on Saginaw Bay, up in Tawas, down in Saginaw or Bay City. You were also in Ludington. You spent some time, well, all over the place. But I feel like your real passion is back here in your home state of Michigan.
I love Michigan. I did 2 tours, one in Boston, Massachusetts for a couple of years, and one out in Astoria, Oregon for 3 years. And the rest of my career was here in Michigan. I was stationed Ludington, stationed Saginaw River, Tawas twice, and then stationed Marquette.
Oh, Marquette. I forgot about that one. So you had a good tour. I mean, you had a good career.
Oh, I loved it. I couldn't ask for anything better.
You saw a lot, you learned a lot, you taught a lot of people. Let's talk about this whole concept of being safe on early ice at first, or being safe on early ice. What do you look for? You talked about going out there with a sled, chunking the ice as you go. Beyond that, what do you want us to keep in mind, Joe?
On that first ice, don't go by yourself. Make sure people know that you're going. Bring a rope, some flotation pieces that you can throw to your buddy, or he can throw to you if one of you were to fall through. Don't panic. That's the biggest thing that's going to hinder your survival and getting out of the ice. But just be ready, be prepared. Have your ice alls, wear creepers, because usually early ice doesn't have much snow on it, so it's really slippery. Like your ice alls, for if you do fall through, you can use them to help pull you out, because you can't grab that ice once it's wet and slippery. And like I said, having the rope, maybe a seat cushion from the boat, tie to the end of the rope, makes for something they can throw, and it's really big, so someone can grab a hold of it, rather than some of those rescue lines that they sell that has a small baseball to softball size ball on the end of it, or a frisbee. If your hands are cold and freezing, it's hard to grab those small items. But you can grab a big seat cushion a lot easier, and you can chunk a seat cushion tied to the end of the rope pretty good distance.
Well, when you say don't panic, that's got to be harder than if I went through the ice, and I've had situations before where I went through up to my knees, and for a split second, my heart was up in my throat. I don't know how you go through the ice and not panic, Joe.
Well, you got to talk to yourself a lot. You going out in that environment, you got to know you're going to be ready for anything. You got to be ready for that time you're going to fall through. Know what you're going to do. Tell yourself every time, I'm going to go out. If I fall through, I'm going to kick my legs. I'm going to put my arms out parallel to the ground, out to the ice, so that I can grab a hold of it and keep me from going under. I don't want my head to get wet or go under, because when your head gets wet, you get the slurpy brain freeze, and that really hinders you, because you have to get past that and get your wits about yourself to get yourself out of the ice.
And if you are out there with a buddy, as you say, and your buddy goes through, I guess human nature would be, well, I'm going to go over there and save him. But you say that's not the best thing to do.
No, first thing you do when your buddy falls through is call 911. Get a rescue team coming in your direction. Because the thing is depending on how close, and I wouldn't walk, 20 feet apart, maybe at the closest. But if he went through, you're pretty close to some thin ice yourself. But get some rescue teams coming in your direction. I'd rather show up and find you both got out fine on your own and you're okay, than to get there and have to do a body recovery or two.
Yeah.
Because you decided to try to get your friend out. But once you got a hold of them, let them know where you were at. then don't get any closer. Back up the same direction you came, because the ice that you just walked across is at least you know you walked across it already. Get to a position where you can throw that rope and that piece of seat cushion or whatever it is that you got on the end of that to the individual in the water, to your buddy, get him to grab a hold of it, pull him up on the ice, and that's where your creepers on your feet are going to help out, because you don't need to be sliding when you're pulling him. Get him up on the ice and keep pulling him flat. Don't let him stand up until he gets to safer ice.
And then get him warm and warm him up.
Yes, and that's the other thing too. Remember, that ice was fine carrying 200-pound buddy with his coveralls on, but now he's got another 200 pounds of water trapped in those coveralls. So now he's 400 pounds. So that ice might not be enough for him to stand up. He needs to stay low, keep going, and get back to the vehicle or to a house or to someplace to get him warmed up and out of the wet clothes.
Joe, I always enjoy our conversations. You're a very interesting guy. Again, you've got a lot of experience. Lialot Charters is the charter company, the charter service out of Ludington that you work for. You guys, you're not running trips in the river at all, are you? Strictly Big Lake Charter?
Strictly Big Lake.
All right. So if folks want to book a trip for next spring, get in touch with Lialot. You can go out with Captain Joe Marion himself. Joe, good luck getting that buck. Good luck for me getting that buck. And you and I will talk again soon, my friend.
Sounds good. Good luck.
All right, Joe Marion right here on Outdoor Magazine. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the weather and what the forecast is with Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Just pop on, snap on, zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a minute. If you're looking for big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, or if you are a saddle hunter, Versa Skins has clothes tailor-made, pun intended, for you. Check them out online at versaskins.com or go to amazon.com and do a search for Versa Skins brand. Versa Skins, just change your skin for the season you're in. And what is the season we're in right now? Well, it feels like wintertime, doesn't it? Depending on what part of the state you're in, it looks like wintertime as well. Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa, is a guy I go to every year when I'm looking to see what the short-term forecast is, as well as the long-term trends. He's with us once again. Mark, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hopefully you're doing good.
I am. I'm doing great, Mark. I appreciate you asking. So listen, I know you got a lot going on, so let's get right to it. This bout of cold weather that we're having right now, is this a sign of a good old-fashioned winter staring us right in the face?
It certainly is a first step. So I'll tell you what. Hey, Mike, I'm getting an echo.
Probably not now. You probably good, Mark?
Well, let's see. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
You've been talking about needing cold for ice. First step is to get some early cold. First, I do want to point out, and I wrote about this on MLive a week or two ago, the Great Lakes are, at that point a week or two ago, at all-time warm temperatures for then it was late November. Lake Michigan's average water temperature still was about 52 degrees. Okay? So we've got to get some early cold, which we're doing, and we're going to get another shot or two of early cold first week or so of December. And that's going to bring the water temperatures down. Maybe it can bring it down close to normal. And then we rely on, later cold, late December into January to start to get the inland ice to form. But to answer your question, good old-fashioned Michigan winter, can we go yes with an asterisk?
Yes, because you're the guy who gets to set the rules. You're the meteorologist.
We still got the 800-pound gorilla always in the room, and that is the warmer oceans and the warmer globe. So can we go back to a 1970s type winter? Probably not, but can we go to a lot of days below freezing versus last year? And I will tell you, this winter will not be like last winter. Last winter, we had the 800-pound gorilla, warmer globe. We had the El Nino, which produces a warming pattern in the winter. And we had a very strong El Nino. So we had a lot of that going. So I think we're going to have probably, if mathematically when we get done, we probably will be just slightly warmer than normal, which means it will be a cold, true winter.
The snowfall, this early snowfall is interesting too because they got hammered up north, they got hammered south of us. Here where I live in the middle part of the state, the mid-Michigan, we got a little dusting, but some parts of the state already have snow, don't they, Mark?
Yeah, and lots of it, and more coming through the week because, again, the lakes are in the low 50s, and what causes lake effect snow is the difference between the lake temperature and about 5,000 feet up. So we're getting this anomalous cold, another couple of shots before it lets up probably a little bit for the second half of December, but it comes across that warm water, very heavy lake effect snowfall, and there looks to be another one coming that's even colder. That's typically what we see is when the cold air starts to come down, first blob is cold, second blob is a little colder, third blob is very cold, then it lets up for a couple of weeks, and then the next wave of cold comes down, and that would put it timed right at Christmas week or early January, and that would be the ice-making type cold. Eventually, now here's the other interesting part about this winter for the snowmobilers and the folks that like to ride their side-by-side out through the woods. Looks like we're going to be in an active storm track. So let's give ourselves normal winter cold temperatures, and let's give ourselves above normal precipitation. And the National Weather Service, they're very good at this. When they see a definitive pattern, they're very good in the long range in general terms, and they are sticking with a bullseye of wetter, above normal precipitation, let's call it, over all of Michigan because they see this active storm track off of the Pacific. Storms come through the Dakotas, bend down to Iowa, curve northeast toward us, and we get in the solid shield of precipitation. So we could have a very snowy winter, or we could actually have a very stormy winter. Great news for snowmobilers.
You just made a lot of people happy, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
I will let you go because I know you're busy, but just don't think this went unnoticed. You used a very scientific, a meteorological term there, blob. So we'll come back to that next time we talk, and we'll get a definition for blob. All right?
Okay, sounds great. Have a great holiday and safe one.
All right, thank you, Mark Torregrossa, Michigan's meteorologist. You can watch his, or you can watch him on mlive.com. You can read his writings on mlive.com, and his other website is farmerweather.com. Good guy, appreciate his time. He's a busy guy, and he stepped out to join me, and I appreciate it. That'll wrap up this opening hour of this week's show. When we come back, hour number 2 with Tom Simmon, talking about high-pressure air guns, then Ken Dalton of Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative on December pheasant hunting here in Michigan.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And I do believe the best way to listen to this show, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. Your local stations have your local news, your local weather, your local sports, your local commercials. Maybe there's a sale, something you want to take advantage of here coming up in a pre-Christmas sale. of some kind. Plus, the radio stations get the content of the program before the podcast version is uploaded. I wait and I upload the podcast after my broadcast affiliates have aired the show. I want to give them that protection because I appreciate the fact they have given me access to their very valuable weekend airtime. But there is a podcast version of the show available. You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it up on the Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter, X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, and YouTube. And probably a dozen more places I don't even know about. One time I did a search for Outdoor Magazine Podcast, and I found it places I never put it, but it ended up there, and that's fine. Suffice to say, wherever you get your podcast from, wherever you hear your podcast, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Same content, too, by the way. Same content. I do like podcasting, though. Each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Angler Quest Pontoons, Primal Outdoors, and Offshore Tackle. And, Charlie, I don't know if I mentioned this, but when we're done recording this week's show, we will do an offshore podcast. Yep, he's giving me a thumbs up. John Bergsma of Great Lakes Fisherman's Digest TV will join me on this month's Offshore Tackle podcast. But regardless of how you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing my voice, thank you. It does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate it. I was talking in the first hour about the extended firearm rifle season across much of the state this year. So I'm going to go back out there with my Brenton 350 Legend. You know, if I really wanted to get experimental or try something new or try something cool, maybe I'd use one of these high-pressure, high-power air guns. I am fascinated by these things. You know, the first gun I ever had was a BB gun, and it was a spring-powered BB gun. You'd pump it once, and this old spring would get weaker and weaker every time you shot. But it was enough that I took my first animal with it, shot a bird with it, and then you move up through the ranks of, you go to a CO2 gun or a pump gun that shoots pellets, and then you make the jump into a real gun, right? Well, these new high-powered air guns are indeed real guns, and no one knows this better than Tom Simmon. Tom is the owner of a high-pressure pneumatic air gun. His website, myhighpressureair.com, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, welcome back. How have you been?
Thank you, Mike. Been doing good. How about you?
I'm doing real good. Appreciate you asking, and always a pleasure to talk with you. I mean, I've known you back years and years ago, back when you were with Jays.
Yeah, quite a few years now. Probably pushing 30 years now.
Yeah, you're making me feel old, but most things do make me feel old these days. So what are you doing these days, Tom? Give me the skinny on this.
Oh, just trying to keep up, trying to keep customers happy, and trying to educate people on the air guns and what they're capable of doing.
Well,
like you opened up and referred to BB gun. A lot of people still think it's just a BB gun. Well, they're a lot more than that now.
Well, I think you're doing a great job in education and keeping your customers happy. And these new guns are pretty sophisticated, aren't they?
Yes. They're simple, but there's a lot to them. So,
what are we looking for, and what are these guns capable of?
Well, you got anything from a 177 caliber up to a big bore, but since we're in deer season, we'll kind of concentrate on the big bores a little bit. 35 and larger, pretty much for the state of Michigan. And now with the extended muzzleloader season, not really being muzzleloader season anymore.
Exactly.
Just more options to get out there. They're quieter than our centerfire rifles. They're powerful, depending on the make and brand, anywhere from 150 foot-pounds up to 180 foot-pounds at the muzzle. I've got customers taking deer out to 200 yards with these, knowing their trajectories and their limitations, of course.
Well, I got to stop you right there. So people actually are deer hunting with these guns?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got a local customer that actually took his bear 2 or 3 seasons ago with his.
Really?
Yeah.
So why? I mean, why not just use a regular gun, a black powder or centerfire gun?
It's just something new now. It's a whole new challenge. Our center fires, and even though the average shot in the state of Michigan, I came here, latest statistics, 75 yards or such.
Yeah.
But these guns are capable not as long distance as our center fires, but you don't have to be as close to them as you do with a bow. You're still out there with something that's more of a firearm gun style, and it's just a whole new challenge. There's still not a lot of people, ton of people that everybody knows that have taken a white-tailed deer or boar or bear or anything like that with an air rifle.
No, I don't know anybody. Personally, I don't know anybody who's done this, so I think it's very cool.
Yep.
I got to believe, too, that the easing of the restrictions on what used to be called the muzzleloader season, certainly not a primitive season anymore, this has to help you out.
Yes. It gives more people, their season's not done the 30th. Now they can get out there more, so it makes the air rifles a little bit more desired because they get a longer season with them. So,
how did you get into this, Tom?
I was the buyer, Jays, as you know, in the gun department, got them involved with PCPs. Once I wrapped my head around it and kind of seen how big this could be, then I started this up to complement Jays as a fill station. So I had the air, the compressors, and stuff like that. And with their permission, as I grew, always keeping them abreast of what was going on, this just finally grew to a point where I had to make a decision. And my decision was to go on my own. So.
That even when you've got everything lined up, that's a big move, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was a year of turmoil. I mean, the family there have treated me great. I mean, no hard feelings. It was a phenomenal family to work for, company to work for, and we still work together on things. So it's not a relationship. It's totally severed. Just a different relationship now. And Jays is great at what they do, and I just went this direction. So
you used a term a minute ago, and it was initials, and I think it sounded like PCP.
PCP, pre-charged pneumatic.
Pre-charged pneumatic. What does that mean?
Yep. A fancy way of saying charged with air. So all these take basically breathing quality air, like you'd use in a dive tank going scuba diving. So these guns operate most generally anymore, your 36 to 4,300 PSI. There's some smaller caliber guns that operate on 2,000 and 3,000 PSI, but most of these guns on average are going to be 3,600 to about 4,300 PSI of air. And a tank or a tube, something of that kind, that projects that's what shoots your projectile. So instead of power.
But this air is just the air around us that is compressed into a tank of some kind or a cylinder or something?
Correct.
It's not.
Correct.
It's not a nitrogen or something like that.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
And how do we? All right. At home, I've got a pellet rifle that I pump up, and it's using air. But the more pumps I put in it, the more power it'll give me. But there is a limit. How do we get the pressured air into these big, high-powered guns?
By using a valve, an air valve inside, and a lot of these guns, short of the big bores, but the majority of them are regulated, so you get the same amount of air behind your projectile every time. Uses a plenum, stored air, and you get that same amount every time. Bulk of the big bores are non-regulated, so you're going to get, depending on some of these, 2 to 8 shots per fill. The real big bores, the 50s and 45s, you're going to be 2 or 3 rounds, and it's time to top the gun off again.
50 caliber, 45 cal?
Oh, the biggest one I've got in stock right now is a 62 cal that shoots a 700 grain slug.
What is that for?
Deer, bear, anything you want to hunt with it.
Really?
That one can generate up about 800 foot-pounds.
And then what would the effective range of that gun be?
Like I say, I've got guys that have taken deer with some modifications of their gun, knowing what they're doing. One local guy over in Midland took his at approximately 200 yards.
Wow. Well, and to do that,
most guys, until they get used to the gun. What's that?
Well, I was going to follow up, and I think you beat me to it. But you got to know your gun. You got to know the trajectory, the ballistics.
Yeah.
You got to spend some time behind the trigger before you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of equate it to us in our generation. We're used to the old black powder guns. We know there was an arc. We knew kind of how this projectile was coming in, and we held accordingly and knew our ranges, and that's the same thing with the air rifles.
Gotcha. Hang tight, Tom. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics, Michigan's premier air gun shop. Their website is myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. If you're looking for an alternative for this late season, something different, why not try one of these high-powered, high-pressure air guns? Not just for deer, but for other things as well. In fact, I was talking earlier in the show about squirrel hunting. I bet you Tom has a gun for that, too. Anyway, we'll find out more after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on two stations, in fact, the Twister, 92.1 WTWS, and Powerhouse Station, 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland, just outside of Grand Rapids, on two more stations, WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM, and you can hear us in Lansing on WILS, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, you'll know what I'm talking about. What's that sound, Avery? What's that sound again? That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just pulled it out of my pocket, where it is all of the time. I carry a knife with me everywhere that I can. And then some places I carry smaller knives. I'll just leave it at that. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com is the new website for Rapid River Knives. It is very, very cool. It is a better reflection. It's a more accurate reflection of their revised and revamped and revitalized showroom, their production facilities there on US 2, just east of Rapid River. Go to the website, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Use the promo code Avery10 and get 10% off, including, and that's anything, right? Including the new Rapid River Stormy Cromer collaboration. That thing is going to be something to hang on to. It's going to be an heirloom. Although Chris Durson of Rapid River says, use our knives. Don't put them up on the mantle. Don't put them up on the shelf. Put them in your pocket. Put them on your hip and use them. Lifetime guarantee. Great Christmas gift, but don't wait long. If you want them for Christmas, make your order now. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com or go to the shop. Use the promo code Avery10. By the way, Jay Sporting is also honoring that Avery10 promo code. I keep forgetting to mention that. Jay's has a limited selection of Rapid River knives. You can walk in there and say, give me the Avery promo code Avery10, and you will, 10% off. RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com. Another Michigan-based company that has products that I think would be a very interesting Christmas gift idea. High Pressure Pneumatics, Michigan's premier airgun shop. Tom Simmon is the guy behind the operation. Tom, I do think, unless you want one of these big bore guns for deer season this year, it would be an interesting Christmas present, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot that go out for Christmas presents for spouses and kids and such like that.
Are you a Michigan shop only, or are you doing business across the country now these days?
Across the country. We ship every day across the country.
How big is this PCP, pre-charged pneumatic airgun business? I got to believe it's growing.
It's still growing. More and more people are finding out about it. We've got a little, I call it a shooting shack. We got a couple benches out there where we can take people out, show them how to shoot the guns, how they operate, the function of them. And if you get a new person in here that's never fired one before, as soon as they pull the trigger, they turn around with a big grin on their face and their eyes as big as saucers. Can't believe how quiet, how smooth it was. Then they put 2, 3, 4, 5 down there, and it's almost a one hole at 50 yards, and they're just sold at that point.
So that's part of the appeal, the lack of recoil and the quietness.
Yeah, very quiet. The smaller calibers, you pretty much watch everything happen in the scope. And for those that don't want to get into the deer hunting side of it, you shoot a lot more off the off season with these small bores, it will make you a better shot with your deer rifle when you get there, because you've done so much trigger time, practice keeping your face down on the stock, keep watching everything happen. So it transitions over to the guys that still rifle hunt for deer and such like that. So.
Well, you talked about the big bore end of things. Let's go back to this small bore. I mean, how small do these guns get?
177 cal is the smallest gun.
Is that the same 177 caliber that I'm shooting out of my cheap whatever I've got now?
Yep, except these are more pellet. They don't shoot the BBs, they're pellets. So the little Diabolo style pellet that we all familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Could you use that for small game like squirrels, or would you want something more?
Oh, absolutely. They're getting large, bigger and bigger in the squirrel and rabbit hunting because they are so quiet. You're not getting one shot, and the squirrels are scattering from tree to tree. If you got 2, 3 squirrels, 4 squirrels in a tree, chances are you're getting 2, 3 shots off easy before they really get scared. And even if they are, they're not going very far usually.
So, and I would think with like the smaller, the 177 or 22, I would imagine those you're going to get more shots with before recharging.
Oh yes, yeah. Depending on the gun, you're going to get anywhere from small handgun style ones from 20 shots up to 150, 180 shots.
Wow. So they do make handgun style air guns?
They're not as small as we would think most handguns are, but they are pistol oriented, but they're not something you're going to put in a front pocket like we would for concealed carry type things. They're a little larger than that, but they're still a lot of fun. Fun for the family and all these small bore air rifles, because kids, moms, grandfathers, grandpas, anybody can shoot these. They're not loud. They don't belch you when you shoot them. So everybody, even if you're, I really don't like to shoot a whole lot, those type of people generally like the air rifles too, because they're quiet and no recoil.
So what styles, what do these look like? Do they look like a traditional gun? Are they really high-tech and futuristic? What am I going to see?
All gamuts. You got them to where they look more traditional rifle, except for you see a bottle or a tube on it. But other than that, stock and everything's traditional rifle, up to looking more AR-15 tactical style, tripped out rimfire type stuff, or PRS and LR-22, just kind of more futuristic, if you want, for lack of a better term.
And what is that bottle? What is that tube? That's got to be the air storage chamber?
Yes, that's your air storage.
Is that detachable, or is that part of the gun?
Most of them are detachable. The FX line and a couple of lines are detachable under pressure, so you can take the bottle off while it's pressurized, carry another one with you if you want to. Then some of them are fixed to the gun. The gun will have to be totally de-aired, degassed to remove the cylinder or bottle.
So what do you do? Bring a portable compressor with you to refill the gun, or do you bring more tanks to recharge the gun? How does that work?
Well, you can go a couple different ways. We've got large tanks, 18 cubic foot, 74 and 100 cubic foot. That's filled to 4,500 psi, and you can use those to top your air gun off with, which will top your air gun off in just a few seconds. We've got personal compressors that will run off a 110 outlet in the house or run off your vehicle battery, and those will charge your guns up in anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes, depending on the volume. And then you can step up and buy a compressor that will fill those 74 and 100 cubic foot bottles and your gun.
Do I have to be concerned about overcharging this thing? I mean, I got to be honest. My concern will be, I've never done this before. I'm going to overcharge this tube and it's going to blow up.
No, I mean, you're going to have to massively overcharge. These compressors won't go that high a pressure to blow your bottle up. The compressors themselves have an automatic shut-off, so you can set it. So if you're filling it to 3,600 psi, you set your needle 3,600. When it fills that point, the compressor shuts off. If you're using the bulk tank, then you got to watch your pressure a little bit, but they got a slow fill valve on them. So it's not like you're going to open that valve and it's going to peg your needle right out. You're going to see that needle rise, and once you get towards full, you got to shut the valve down and bleed your line off, and away you go.
So they're safe. They're safe to use.
Yeah.
Well, safe, but
Absolutely.
like any a gun, they are indeed a gun. So you've got to you follow your basic gun safety precautions, right? Don't be stupid with them.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
What about
just because they're a BB gun, pellet gun, you treat them just like a gun.
Well, and how many kids learned basic gun, myself included, basic gun handling skills with a BB gun?
I think the vast majority of us did.
Absolutely, we did. What about licensing and regulations? How does that work with these guns, Tom?
They are not like a firearm. They're not considered a firearm, so there's no FFL background check type thing like that. So they're pretty much general merchandise over the counter. For hunting and transporting purposes, follow all the firearm rules and you'll be fine.
So pretty straightforward. You're not jumping through a lot of hoops.
No. Nope. Come on in, check them out. We'll set you up and you can walk out the door right away with one.
Make it as easy as possible.
Correct.
Because they're not loud, is there any reason to put a suppressor or a can on the end of them at all?
There is a big market, and I carry a selection of those we call them moderators to separate ourselves from the firearms, but they will make the quiet gun even quieter. We have some guns that without one are a little bit on the loud side. Throw the simplest moderator on there, and she's almost whisper quiet.
And that's got to be the big guns, because the small guns have to be quiet right out of the box, I got to believe.
Yeah. Yep, vast majority of them.
Well, I think it is a very interesting, very fascinating thing to get into. What about prices? Are they comparable of a traditional gun, more or less?
The cost to get in is going to probably be more than a traditional gun because you need that air source. So that adds a chunk to it. But I've got air guns in here starting at about $250, go all the way up to about $3,800. So quite a wide selection of air guns.
So that $250 would be, what, 22?
22 cal. Like the Umarex No-Dose is real popular. It's a carbine style. Really great for kids and just plinking and squirrel hunting. And that starts right around that 250 mark. And they just go right up on from there. Almost fully computerized gun. So
where is the shop, Tom?
I am 4 miles west of Harrison on M61.
And the website is myhighpressureair.com, myhighpressureair.com. Good luck to you, Tom. I mean, I know you...
High Pressure Pneumatic on Facebook and Instagram.
High Pressure Pneumatic, Facebook and Instagram. Excellent. I was going to say good luck to you, but you're doing a bang-up job. I mean, you're doing a wonderful job, so keep up the good work, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas season, and you and I will talk again.
Well, you too. And you're invited out here anytime. We'll take time with you and let you shoot these.
You know what? I'd like to do that. So I could I or anybody could just stop by the shop, say, hey, I want to try one of these things out, and we can do that?
Yeah. Yep, through our open hours, I got enough staff on hand. We got plenty of time to help customers out and get them out there and let them try a couple out and see what they think. Perfect.
That's a great selling tool as well. Tom Simmon of High Pressure Pneumatics, myhighpressureair.com, also on Facebook and Instagram. We'll take a break. When we come back, let's talk with the pheasant, Mr. Pheasant, Ken Dalton, about the December pheasant hunting season. And then we'll check in with Eric Hilliard of the DNR on the Pure Michigan hunt. We're also going to throw in a quick Ask Avery question as well, all coming up in hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based family-owned Killer Food Plots. I realize you're not putting in food plots right now, but you're probably still hunting over food plots, and you will be for the next few weeks. As much time as you spend with those things, why not get the most out of your food plots by working with Killer Food Plots? They do a great job. Krazan family, Rich Krazan in particular, really works hard to help you out. They also make a line of scents and attractants. And before you know it, I realize actually it's going to be a while, but I'm just... I'm thinking optimistically. Before you know it, it'll be time to start thinking about putting in food plots for next year. KillerFoodPlots.com. That's KillerFoodPlots.com. You can also look for Killer Food Plots at the different shows throughout the wintertime show season as well. KillerFoodPlots.com. I want to turn our attention now to Mr. Pheasant. Ken Dalton got that name when he was working so hard on the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative. This guy is committed to bringing pheasant hunting back in Michigan, and he has worked very hard to get things moving that direction. Ken, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mike.
So what's on your mind right now, my friend? I'm thinking probably the December pheasant hunting season.
Absolutely. I was just wanting to thank you for giving me more airtime and to let people know that there is definitely a December pheasant season. It started December 1st, and the parking lots, as usual, were packed out opening morning.
How long does it go in what parts of the state? It's not statewide, is it, Ken?
No, it's not. It's in southern lower Michigan, and actually we have a couple spots on the west side of the state that back in the day when we had snow that was 8 feet tall, that they canceled it over there because of the snowstorms and so forth. So a couple of those places were taken out. I think we have right now about 9 release sites for the December season. Normally we have 13.
So what is this December season about? I mean, did I ask you how late in the month it goes? If not.
Yes, it goes till January. You can hunt on January the 1st. New Year's Day, you can still pheasant hunt.
So the whole month of December.
December 1st to January 1st. Yes, the whole month of December. And I wanted to make more people aware of that to get out and seize that opportunity.
Well, yeah, because there's so many other things going on during that month of December. What is December pheasant hunting season like?
Well, it's very unique. And normally in October, November, we can have some rather warm weather. And in December, hopefully like this time of year, when we have that cold slapping you in the face, you have the possibility to have some snow on the ground where you have better sending conditions, tracking the birds in the snow. And it's just a great time to be out there in December.
Is there a concern hunting these birds in December that we're going to hit them too hard and hurt the population?
No, our organization, the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative, is a recruitment organization, recruitment, retention, reactivation. And that is our goal. And we have, last year, they issued 12,000 licenses. That is a huge number of licenses to be issued for pheasant hunting in Michigan. We basically have a very small population of wild birds. But I just heard on a Facebook post the other day that the Sportsman's Alliance made a post about whether it's a released bird or a wild bird. We're all in the same boat together, and we need to work together as hunters to secure our hunting heritage for the future. The time of arguing and fighting over and nitpicking little things should be over. This is all about recruiting hunters, because we have lost over 50% of our small game hunters in the last 10 years, and that's a staggering number. And the next problem we're faced with is aging hunter population, and when that grabs a hold, it's not going to be very pretty. So we need to do what we can right now while everybody's up and alive and kicking, and get more people in the fields.
You know, what you say about infighting in the pheasant hunting world, that goes to all hunting and fishing these days. You know, we get these people who are purists and say the way I'm doing things is the right way to do things and you're not doing the right thing. That doesn't matter anymore. We got to get well beyond that. So I agree with you completely, Ken, but it's not just pheasant hunting, it's everything. It's the time for infighting and holier than thou and shaming other hunters and anglers. That's baloney. We got to let that go.
Yes, we have to let it go and just seize the moment, because, like, Mike, you don't know how thankful that every resident hunters in the state of Michigan is so thankful that you're back up on your feet. I couldn't imagine Michigan without your show. It would be terrible. And we appreciate you so much.
You know, you took me by surprise there, Ken. Thank you for saying that. I do appreciate that. It was an interesting situation. Yeah, the stroke took me by surprise and took me out for about a week. But then I'm back and I'm ready to rock and I'm ready to here to talk about hunting and fishing. Real quick though, I should know this, but I don't. Is there a special pheasant hunting license, or is it covered under the base license for Michigan hunters?
No, it's a $25 pheasant license, and under 18 it is free. So it doesn't break the bank if you want to take all your kids and grandkids or neighbor kids or people like that out hunting with you, which we are seeing a lot of younger people coming out into the fields with their parents and friends. And we also had that great Learn to Hunt event at Williams Gun Site, and we had about 65, 75 people there, and that went over really well. And we had a different age classification in that meeting also. It wasn't just all hair or no hair. It was all different colors of hair, and young people, and women, and kids, and it was great.
So Ken, your hard work. I gotta let you go, but your hard work.
Okay. Hey, thanks for the time. Get them guys out there hunting.
All right, your hard work is paying off. Ken Dalton of the Michigan Pheasant Hunting Initiative, mphi.info. You know why they call him Mr. Pheasant, right? Because the guy is just hardcore. He's obsessed by it, and it's a good obsession. We'll take a break. When we come back, the Ask Avery segment, and then talk about the Pure Michigan hunt as well. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on WKNW, 1400 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The Ask Avery segment works when you get involved in asking questions. That's exactly what Bob Rosen did. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a twofer today, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is do a real quick Ask Avery. Bob Rosen sent me an email. He said, Mike, I hunt in a low area that gets too dark to shoot early. But since it's still legal hunting time, I walk out with the gun loaded because it's out in the open woods. It's light enough to shoot. Since it is open to the public, I like to wear a headlamp for safety purposes. If I am checked or I get a shot, will I be ticketed for hunting with the aid of artificial light? That's Bob Rosen. That's a great question, Bob. I reached out to some folks in the DNR. Here is the definitive answer. Bob, it would be legal as long as it is during the posted legal hours and the light is not being used to illuminate game. And it's a headlamp, not a handheld spotlight. So there you go, Bob. There's your question. As long as you're not using it to spot game, you're good to go. I also wanted to use this opportunity to check in with the folks at DNR, in particular Eric Hilliard, who we have not talked with for a while, about the Pure Michigan hunt, because, Eric, the Pure Michigan hunt deadline is just around the corner, isn't it?
It is. For this, if you want to get in on the drawing that happens next month in January 2025, you have to purchase your application by midnight on December 31st. So this is the last month right now.
So we've got a few weeks yet, but I always like to remind people, because this is one of those things that if you don't just do it, you will say, I'm going to do it, and then you forget about it, and then it's too late.
That's true. And one of the nice things that we added to the online system is that you can actually set it up now. If you go online to purchase your applications, you can set it up to where it will buy you a Pure Michigan Hunt application, one application automatically every year.
I did not know that. That's actually a great tool right there. But I'm not going to get by with just one, Eric. I need more than one.
So if you need more than one, you can certainly pick those up at any licensed retailer that you would normally go to, brick and mortar place, or you can purchase them online or from within the Michigan DNR Hunt Fish app.
I don't know if you know this offhand, and maybe it's not fair to ask you, but I mean, are people still buying licenses in person, or are most of them now bought online or electronically in some way?
You know, I don't have those stats because it's not my particular area. I'm sure there's somebody who could answer that question, but there's still a lot of people that do buy in the brick and mortar locations. A lot of people buy online also. So, you know, definitely it has shifted over the years. I would say we've seen an increase of people buying online, but that doesn't mean that people still aren't buying in the stores. There's a lot of those people still out there. $5, if I remember right, for a Pure Michigan Hunt. What does that get you when you win? Because as I've told you before, Eric, I will win the Pure Michigan Hunt sometime while I am still here on the earth. So what am I going to win if it's this year? If it's this year, and Mike, I sincerely hope nothing would give me greater joy than to see that your name has been pulled from the list of applicants. But the thing that everybody, I think, wants most is that elk tag. Elk and bear both, and then you obviously get the spring and fall turkey and the list deer in the first pick at a managed waterfowl hunt area. But there's a couple things that make these tags special, and that is that you can hunt in any open unit during that unit's open period. So maybe you want to hunt for bear in the UP and you're not having luck up there, so then you want to drop down to the northern lower. You can certainly do that. That's acceptable. And the other thing is you can transfer these tags to somebody else of your choosing. So maybe, for some reason you don't want to hunt bear, let's say, or it's just not working out with your schedule. You want to give that tag to a friend or family member. You can transfer that tag to them, and then they can go hunt on that tag as well. So those are the two special things about these tags.
Wow. $5 a chance. You can get as many as you want. Every year somebody wins with just one entry. I know this because we've talked to those folks, but obviously the more you have in there, the higher chance you have. Pure Michigan Hunt, is there a website for Pure Michigan Hunt, or is it part of the DNR website, or how's that work, Eric?
Yep. So you can get to the website by going to michigan.gov/PMH or michigan.gov/Pure Michigan Hunt. And we've got full details on there, as well as an FAQ, how to buy as a gift for someone else. We've got the holidays right around the corner. And then we also have that list of all of our generous sponsors that we have that contribute to that prize package worth thousands of dollars that people walk away with in addition to those licenses as well.
Excellent. Let's get you back on in a couple of weeks here, just as a last-minute reminder for people, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right, Eric, appreciate that. Thanks for jumping on the line with me here at the last minute. Eric Hilliard of the Michigan DNR talking about the Pure Michigan Hunt. And again, this was kind of a hybrid. It was a Pure Michigan Hunt conversation and an Ask Avery question. Thank you to Bob Rosen for putting in that question. And thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Again, thank you, Eric Hilliard. Appreciate your time. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, we're going to be talking with Jake Romanack, Fishing 411, probably late season trolling, and I know some early season ice fishing. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar coming up in hour 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and indeed, this is the third hour of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And so glad to have you along with us as we are now fully in the month of December. Did a conversation in our first hour with Michigan's meteorologist, Mark Torregrossa, who said, yeah, it's been cold, all right. And, yeah, we've had some snow. And he said, and it's going to get cold, and it's going to stay cold for a while, and we're going to get more snow. That's from his professional opinion, his professional forecast. Now, that's going to make some people sad. It's going to make some people happy. It's been a long time since we had a good old-fashioned Michigan winter. I don't think, and listen, I'm no expert. I think the days of the winters like we had back in the 70s on the west side of the state when I was a kid growing up, we ain't going to see those again. But yeah, a little snow, a little cold, a little ice, that'll make some people happy. I was thinking the other day, well, I've probably been a bit more introspective the last few weeks than normal. because I am glad to be here. I am glad to be able to come back in the studio. I am glad to be able to sit at this microphone and just talk about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and the history of here in our great state of Michigan. As I do that, I think about not only the cool things we have to do, the cool things that I have been able to do, but the people. Because the people that I have met and talked with and been blessed to know along the way, have been one of the coolest parts of this whole ride. And when I think about people like this guest here in this third hour, yes, indeed, it does make me feel old, but I am getting to be old, and that's okay. I have known Jake Romanack, honestly, since this guy was a kid. I mean, I've worked with his dad, Mark, and his mom, Mary, forever. They were pro staffers for the old Outdoor Magazine TV show years and years and years ago. Mark and I worked very closely. In fact, here's some inside baseball information. The Fishing 411 TV show, and I don't want to take too much credit here, but the way this whole thing got started was I was faced with a decision. Do I continue on in the TV world and try to grow and try to get better and try to expand that side of the franchise? And I decided, yes, I need to do a fishing show. I'm not the guy to host it. And I got looking at my friends who were in the fishing business, and I said, who's the perfect host for this? And immediately, Mark Romanack came to mind. So Mark and I partnered up on the original version of the Fishing 411 show. And it only took me a couple of years to see that, you know what, I'm in this guy's way. So I got out of the way. And Mark took it, and he flew with it. He brought in his son, Jake, who at this point, Jake has gone from a little guy to a full-grown guy. He's an adult at this point. So that's how long I've known Jake. But the interesting thing about Jake is I've been able to watch from afar how he has grown, how he has evolved, how he has blossomed into a world-class fisherman, but a world-class fishing educator. And you can see that. If you watch the Fishing 411 show, you can see this every week. Jake is an excellent stick. He's an excellent troller, but man, he's also very good at sharing that information. And I thought, and he's a hardcore ice fisherman too, so I thought, you know what, this might be a good time to bring Jake back on the show and talk a little bit about things and life and the prospect of possibly an early ice fishing season. Jake Romanack, welcome back to the show. How are you, buddy?
Mike, I always love your introductions, man. I'm just smiling ear to ear. And you say you don't want to give too much credit, but I'd give you all the credit in the world, my friend. I mean, Fishing 411 started because of you, and we're actually shooting. We're about ready to go to broadcast on season 19 of Fishing 411.
Congratulations! That's got to feel good.
It feels really good. We have some really, really cool content this year, and it's just crazy to think. Like, I'm 29 years old, so I mean, you're right. For as long as I can remember, we've been doing television. I was just a little kid when we started, went off to college, came back home, got to work in the family business, and now I get to do it every single day of the week. I get to do what I love. I can't complain.
There is a lot to be said for that, because I also, for most of my career, have been able to do what I absolutely love. Are there ups and are there downs? Yeah. Is it frustrating sometimes? Yes. Is it maddening sometimes? Yes. But when you think about the fact that overall you get to do something you love, there aren't many people in this world who are able to say that. That indeed is something very special.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that I love, when you texted me and said that let's do an ice fishing segment, that piqued my interest, because I am very excited to hopefully have a normal Michigan winter here.
Well, and I was thinking earlier, maybe we're going to have an early ice fishing season, and I had to rephrase it. Well, no, maybe it'll be a normal Michigan ice fishing season where you won't have to go to Minnesota to look for ice in the middle of the winter,
Exactly, and that's my hope. I mean, I always start my ice fishing season out in Minnesota. In fact, I'm leaving next week, and I'll spend a week, 10 days out there ice fishing. It's a good way to start the ice season because, any way you slice it, they always have ice sooner than we do, and they have great fishing out there. But I'm hoping to be able to come home from that trip and hit the ground running with some great ice fishing opportunities, especially in our inland lakes. I live up here in the Cadillac area, and the lakes aren't froze yet. There's a couple small lakes that froze over the last couple of days here. But looking at the forecast, it looks like we'll have walkable ice. In the next 10, 12 days, I would feel pretty comfortable having some walkable ice around here.
What is it about ice fishing? What's the appeal? I mean, when you're on open water, you're you're more flexible. It's easier to maneuver. Why lock yourself into one hole in ice fishing? Or is that not the way you look at it?
It is the way I look at it. I don't know if it's a little bit more difficult or what the deal is, Mike, but I have always, since a little kid, been obsessed with ice fishing. When I was just a little kid, my dad would take me to these little lakes around here in the Cadillac area, and we would catch bluegills and crappie. And then as I got older, I started chasing bigger species like walleye and lake trout, and I just absolutely became obsessed with ice fishing, and I wish I could tell you what it is. I mean, I've literally caught thousands and thousands of walleye in open water, but even a 15-inch walleye makes my heart beat through my chest when it comes to bringing it through an 8-inch hole. So I think it's just that appeal. It's rod in hand fishing, which is always fun. And then the fact of thinking places like Saginaw Bay, running 15, 20 miles offshore, fishing in an 8-inch hole in the middle of nowhere, and somehow catching a fish through that hole and having it all work out, just to me is just mind-blowing. Driving across that big frozen tundra with a snowmobile, it never gets old.
When I hear you describe it and the excitement in your voice, it almost makes me want to get out there. And it's been a lot of years since I wanted to get out on the ice. So nice job, Jake.
Well, heck, Mike, you're going to have to come fish with me this year. I'm hoping we have a normal year, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's the other nice thing about ice fishing is, like, I have a 3-year-old little boy who I've tried really hard to get out in the boat this year, but he's just that age that he's hard to get into a boat, right? He's running everywhere. He's all in the way, and I'm just concerned for his safety. Mm-hmm. But when you're on good, safe ice, taking kids out fishing, it's the perfect opportunity for, take my little boy out, because where's he going to go? He can run around, he can have fun, and then he can come back into the ice shelter and the otter ice shelter and get warmed up, and it's just a great opportunity.
And what you just described there is one of the things that I think is so cool about this outdoor lifestyle, the fact that you can go from generation to generation. Your dad, Mark Romanack, an icon in the fishing world in Michigan. You, Jake Romanack, are becoming an icon. And now you've got this third generation of your son, and you guys can pass down your knowledge and your passion to him. It gives me goosebumps, Jake, to hear about that. That is so cool.
It's so exciting, Mike. I love that little boy. He loves his grandpa. Grandpa's his number one favorite person, and he loves just being out in the outdoors. It's really cool to get to follow what my dad taught me. I give my dad a lot of credit. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't get to do this every single day. So it's cool getting to basically do the same thing, just in another roundabout way. And with Cadence, my little boy Cadence, if he decides he doesn't want to hunt and fish for a living, that is absolutely okay.
Sure.
But I want to make sure he has all the opportunities in the world. Ice fishing is one of those things that it's a great opportunity for kids. When you're stuck in a boat, no matter what, if it's a big boat, small boat, you're still stuck in a small area. When it comes to ice fishing, if you want to run around, you absolutely can do that. You can get in it doesn't have to be just fishing. It's just being out in the outdoors. And on those cold days in Michigan where you got a beautiful frozen landscape and it's not windy and the sun's out, man, those are some of my favorite days of the whole year.
Jake, hang tight. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Jake Romanack of Fishing411, fishing411.net. Jake did make a statement there that is so very, very true. Grandpas are cool. Grandpas are very cool. Yes, we are. Oh, I have 5 grandkids now. My latest, Bodie, who I call Bean. A lot of you have said, what's Bean's real name? Well, it's Bodie. Name is Bodie. And I'm pretty excited about him. And grandpas are cool. And grandmas are cool, too. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Jake Romanack of Fishing411, fishing411.net about early ice fishing and more right here on Outdoor Magazine. you can hear the Outdoor Magazine show. In Tawas, WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City. I don't know if I mentioned Traverse City or not. If so, a double shout out to WTCM, 580 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. Just a few of the more than 30 Outdoor Magazine radio affiliates here in the great state of Michigan. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. This time of year, though, you're thinking and planning about that outdoor getaway. And the folks at Reader are thinking and planning about, okay, what about snow removal? That's what they're thinking about right now. The folks at Reader are praying for lots of snow this winter so their crews can be busy all winter long. If you're thinking about snow, do you want to be out there with a shovel? Do you want to be out there shoveling feet of snow? You know, maybe we'll get feet of snow, maybe we won't. Do you want to be shoveling inches? Do you want to be shoveling 3 inches of wet snow? I'm not sure I do. Well, the folks at Reader can take care of it for you. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Speaking of winter, cold temps, snow, cold ice, Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, fishing411.net, is an ice fishing expert. He is an ice fishing aficionado. Jake, how do you approach early ice? I mean, you look at a body of water. Where do you get started? Where do you go?
You know, Mike, I think one of the things when it comes to ice fishing that I like the most is that it's, I guess, you know, I've been doing a lot of deer hunting the last few weeks, obviously, in Michigan. And ice fishing's a lot like hunting versus fishing in the aspect of I do a lot of scouting before I ever actually get on any body of water when it comes to ice fishing. With a boat, you're more mobile. And I can be moving around and I can look at stuff with my electronics and I can learn the lake. By just simply moving around. You don't really have that luxury when it comes to ice fishing. And so I spend a lot of time e-scouting. If I'm picking a new body of water, I get on like the Navionics app on your phone. You can simply look at the contours and just kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. Now, if you're pan fishing, this time of year on first ice, I'm probably looking at shallow bays. And that's what I'm kind of focusing on. A lot of times first ice, those panfish are up shallow in those bays. As the winter progresses, when it comes to panfish, then you're starting to look for those deeper holes. Those 20, 30 feet of water seems to hold those fish the rest of the winter. Walleye fishing is no different. I'm looking for weed edges, and those walleyes like to travel those edges like highways. And I can find all of that information by simply sitting on the couch with my phone in my hand and looking at these areas, dropping waypoints on my Navionics app. And then when I get out there, now I have a place to start. Instead of just walking out into the lake and hoping for the best, I have an area, you know, that becomes spots on a spot, just like in deer hunting. There's spots within the spot, and that's what ice fishing is all about, is picking apart those little areas, getting on those transition areas, and sitting on those spots are going to be your highest probability of being successful.
E-scouting, I like that term.
Yeah, you know, and like I said, it's one of the things with it is that, you know, you could absolutely just pick a body of water, drill a bunch of holes, and hope for the best. But I found that technology has really helped us when it comes to the sonars that we're using ice fishing now, but just showing the contours of the lake. There's hardly any lakes, especially in Michigan, that aren't mapped extremely well now. And so you get 1 foot contours. You really have a great idea of what's underneath you before you ever drill that hole. Places like Houghton Lake, I ice fish quite a bit on first ice. In those areas, I really am looking for weed edges. And so once I know the depth of water that the weeds kind of start to taper out, I can get on the app. I can know right at 10 feet of water, the weeds taper out. And so I can follow that 10-foot contour line and drill holes along that way, looking for those weed edges. And so it helps tremendously. Instead of having to drill 1,000 holes, maybe I'm only drilling 50 holes in a day. And it sounds like it's crazy, but before I had good mapping, that's how we figured it out, is we drilled a ton of holes.
Is there any validity to checking out a wintertime spot? Say you were fishing a body of water, say Houghton Lake. Okay, you have a hot spot in the summertime on Houghton Lake. Is it worthwhile to go back to that spot in the winter through the ice?
I wouldn't say in the summertime, Mike, but absolutely in the fall. If you spend some time in the boat in the fall, where these fish are at in the fall is exactly where they're going to be come first ice. They don't move very much from fall to winter when you get that first ice transition. So basically from like October until really late December, early January, these fish are all in the same area. So that's another really good way to find these fish if you're excited to get out there in the boat, find these fish in the boat, save waypoints, and you can come right back to those spots come first ice. That's another really good way to do it. Summertime, these fish are in a different pattern. A lot of times they're in different areas of the lake in the middle of the summer. But come fall, they get in those fall transition patterns that just kind of blend into winter patterns.
I feel like with ice fishing, it's one of those activities where if you want to, you can get into it hardcore and you can spend a bunch of money. But I also feel like it's one of those things where if you want to ice fish, you can do it fairly inexpensively.
Absolutely. And even when it comes to, let's talk like the state of Michigan. Right now I have a snowmobile, an enclosed trailer, my otter flip house, all of my tackle, rods. If you added all of that together, and I feel like I'm a fairly hardcore ice fisherman, it wouldn't buy the outboard motor that's on my boat. And so even when you want to get really into it, it's still a very reasonable thing. Now, if you look out west and these guys that are buying wheelhouses and spending a lot of money on hard shacks, absolutely, you can spend as much money as you want to on ice fishing. But you take my enclosed trailer, snowmobile, otter flip house, tackle, add it all together financially, I couldn't buy an outboard motor. So it's definitely a reasonably priced thing to get into, and it allows you to go to a lot of different places. I have friends that work a lot in the summertime but get laid off in the winter, and so they spend a lot of time ice fishing, and that's where they invest their time, is ice fishing. So, it depends on what you do for a living, but absolutely there's great opportunities in ice fishing, and I feel like it's a reasonable cost. If you want to buy a $3,000 ice shelter, you absolutely can, but they make some really good $200, $300, $400 ice shelters to get you into it. You can go on Facebook Marketplace and find used ones. But there's absolutely, and that's the thing, if you're not comfortable ice fishing, you're not going to do it very long. So when I say things like ice shelters and heaters, to me, they're a necessity. If you want to go out and sit on a bucket, you might get a couple hours of fishing in, but I like to fish all day, and the only way I can do that is to be comfortable inside a warm shelter with a heater going.
That's an excellent point. I see people on inland lakes and in the Saginaw River when we get some good ice. They're sitting out there on the bucket. They've got their back to the wind. They don't look that comfortable to me. I mean, they look like they're freezing. Like you say, if you're warm and comfortable, you're gonna do it longer, whatever the activity is. But ice fishing in particular.
And I think that, ice fishing's really blown up, Mike, in the last 10 years, 12 years. And so there's been a lot of products out there that have made ice fishing more comfortable, all the way down to the clothing. Like I'm wearing striker clothing, which has float suit, which is nice for safety, but it's just a warm suit. It's a comfortable suit to wear, and I don't get cold. To me, fishing in the fall or fishing in the spring is a lot colder of a sport than ice fishing, because I'm sitting in a warm shelter wearing warm clothes. I got a lot of buddies that love to steelhead fish, and to me, they're way more hardcore than I am, because it is a lot colder being in a steelhead boat in the winter on the river than it is sitting in a warm ice shelter.
You mentioned electronics. Electronics today have become so sophisticated, so high-tech, but the cost does keep coming down, doesn't it?
Cost is coming down on a lot of the live sonar, which is really cool to see. One of the things that I kind of preach in the summertime and wintertime, especially for guys in Michigan because we fish year-round, if you're looking at investing into a live sonar like a Garmin Live Scope, I tell guys to build yourself a bundle, basically a shuttle-style unit. You can put a lithium battery in there, put a head unit in your live processor box right on the shuttle, and that shuttle can go in your boat, and it can go ice fishing. And so you're using the same piece of electronics for open water and ice fishing. So it makes it a little bit easier to chew, because it is a pretty big investment. Live has definitely changed the way I fished in both ice fishing and open water fishing. But if you don't have it, that's okay. You still can be successful ice fishing. I just think that if you build yourself a bundle unit, a little shuttle that you can take in the boat, you can take ice fishing. I end up using that shuttle year-round now instead of only using a piece of electronics like a flasher. I really only use ice fishing, and it sits in the garage the rest of the year. Now with a live sonar bundle, I use that piece of sonar year-round.
What about augers? I hear about electric augers. I hear about propane augers. What's the way to go these days if you're going to get a new unit?
As far as I'm concerned, Mike, I think the only option is an electric auger. Propane augers hit the market quite a few years ago, and you're probably okay to that. In Michigan, there's some areas out west where we get some extreme colds where propane actually gels up when it gets really cold. So I've had problems with the propane augers. Electric augers are incredible. You can go and buy yourself an actual auger head and auger, and that's all it is. Or you can just buy a bit. Like, for example, I'm using a Razor auger. It's a synthetic auger, and I use my drill, my Milwaukee drill that goes on top of it, and I use that all season long. And so that same drill I'm using in the off season for house projects, and then my little auger bit gets stored away and it doesn't take up any room. And, swapping out those batteries for the Milwaukee batteries there, going to a little bit bigger battery. But other than that, that's all I really need, and I'm drilling literally thousands of holes a winter.
Are you guys done bird hunting now, or are you still out there after that?
We were breaking ice just 2 days ago, but I think, what is today? Is today the 1st or 2nd?
We are recording. We're recording this week's show a few days early. So this is early in December as you and I are talking.
Yeah, so we're pretty much done. I think it was brutal the other day. We were actually hunting here at home on Lake Mitchell and breaking ice along the way. So I'm thinking that that's pretty much the tail end of our bird season. We are going to go and do a diver hunt out in on Lake Erie the last couple days of December to try to shoot some pretty canvasbacks. But other than that, I've pretty much got ice fishing on the brain right now for hopefully the next 3 months.
And where do we see the Fishing 411 show?
Fishing 411 is broadcasting. It's actually broadcasting right now, but they're older shows where season 19 starts on the Sportsman channel, the World Fishing Network, first week of January. You'll also be able to check it out on YouTube. A million different on-demand streaming sites right now. We're trying to get it out there as many places as possible. So if you don't have national television, that's perfectly okay. You can always check it out on YouTube or Facebook or just about anywhere. You can get there, go to the Fishing 411 Facebook page, and we have all that information on there. Excellent.
Jake Romanack, always a pleasure. You do a great job. You and your dad, Mark, really top-notch people, great educators. I look forward to our conversations. I love to follow you guys online, and we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely, Mike. You gave us a scare there, but I'm glad to hear that you're doing better, my friend.
Yeah, I got to be honest. Gave myself a little scare there, too. Jake Romanack of Fishing 411, fishing411.net. We'll take a break. A few more things to talk about, then we'll move on to Dixie Dave right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across the great state of Michigan, including WSGW AM and FM in Saginaw, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm actually in the studios of WSGW right now for these 3 hours, and in this part of the building, I have declared it the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. And so far, nobody's challenged me. Now, that could change, but we're going to go with the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. But I'm very fortunate to work very closely with the folks at WSGW. In fact, right now, Charlie Rude is in the studio with me. He's like a maestro. He's like a conductor. He's got everything just perfect. And, well, it's kind of chilly outside right now, so there aren't that many people out there. There's only, I can see one baby and, two babies and 3 families out there waiting for Charlie to get done. They're chanting, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. Now, they've got smiles on their faces. Charlie, if they ever turn on us and they're out there with pitchforks and sickles, we're going to be in trouble because they know where we're at. He said, we'll go out the back door then. So, this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by my good friends at Garber Chevrolet. I'm driving a Garber Chevy, a Trail Boss. I put some graphics on it. I put some bigger tires on it. But other than that, this thing is stock, and it is absolutely beautiful. You can buy or lease a new vehicle anywhere, any dealer, right? You can walk in and get the same truck. But I think what really sets things apart these days is the way they treat you, the service that you're going to get, and the deal that they're going to give you. I am absolutely confident that the folks at Garber will give you the best deal out there. Garber Linwood, Garber Midland, Garber Saginaw, Garber Chesaning. Walk in the door and say, hey, Mike Avery said you will treat me right and you will give me a good deal, a great deal, and they will. Vehicles are not inexpensive these days, so you want to make sure you get the best deal possible and deal with the best people out there. And I am absolutely convinced that the folks at Garber Chevrolet are the ones who will do that for you. Looking back on this week's show, I want to mention something very briefly because a couple of people have brought this up. And if you're not aware, I don't want to dwell on this, but I'll just bring you up to speed so you're not wondering what's going on. Because I forget about this, right? I assume, even though I know in my mind that everybody doesn't listen every week, you have a life and you have things to do. So I sometimes forget about people come and go, and they might listen to a show and might not hear a couple of shows. But there have been a few people on the show this week said, "Hey Avery, you gave us a scare, and so glad you're feeling good." That scare was I had a stroke. It's been, I don't know, a few weeks ago now. I had a pretty bad stroke, and things. It hit me hard. It hit me out of the blue, but it hit me hard. And there was a period of a few hours there where the outcome was in jeopardy and things didn't look good. But modern medicine, getting in there quickly, getting this clot-busting miracle drug made a big difference. God's grace and your prayers, I'm convinced, were the real reason that I got through this. And I'm doing great. I'm absolutely great. It is amazing. I hear from people every couple of days. Mike, we're so glad that you're doing well. And they fill in the blank. My friend, my brother, whatever, also had a stroke. In fact, I'm talking to some people who had a stroke the same day I did. And they're not doing as well as I am. And it's heartbreaking to hear some of these stories. So I was indeed very fortunate, very lucky, very blessed. Now I have to figure out why. And I got to be honest, that is weighing kind of heavily on me. I mean, why did I come through this so well when other people didn't? What's the reason? I don't know. So all I can do is keep working hard to promote what I have been, which I think are the good things in life. I think hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, family, faith, these are things that I believe in, so these are things that I talk about, so these are things that I promote. I do it every week here on the radio show. Online, I do quite a bit of stuff online, too. I mean, when I look at some of the other folks who are out there, they're blowing me away in their online presence, and that's fine. I think one of the things that this last few weeks has taught me is there is a need to... And I don't believe this is why this all happened, but I'm looking at things in a different perspective maybe trying to put more emphasis on some things and less on others. I will continue to have a strong online presence, but maybe trying to keep up with the Joneses online is something that I'm just spinning my wheels on. And maybe it's something that's not a good thing for me to do. You know, I'm at the end of my career now. I'm not in the middle of my career like some of these other folks are. I'm at the end of my career. Getting to be the end of my career since I have this second lease on life. I've said this even before I got sick. I have no plans to retire. I always say God's plans are not my plans. Boy, has that become obvious to me. I'm not retiring anytime soon, right? I don't think. As long as you are listening to the show, as long as you are following me online, I will continue to do this because it's something that I truly love and something that I feel led to do. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we're going to check in with a guy who can you call a guy a sweetheart? Dixie Dave is a sweetheart of a guy, and he's going to join me after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. This show, as I just mentioned, is called Outdoor Magazine Radio. There is also a podcast version of Outdoor Magazine available. I also have a website. It's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Facebook page, YouTube channel, Instagram, Twitter, now called X. All those things. I play around out there. So if you are on those types of things, if you could find me and follow me, I would appreciate that very much. I also appreciate the fact that each week wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar takes time out from his busy week to spend some time with me here on the radio show and shoot the breeze and usually have a recipe. And he's back with us once again. David, how are you, my friend?
Really great. And yourself, Michael? I'm
doing good. You know, we were talking about the weather, and I know you were talking about the weather with Charlie, too. Here in our part of the state, we're pretty lucky because as you look around much of the rest of the state, they're getting hammered by winter already.
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad it's there. Even though I did put the plow on the tractor, I'm ready.
Oh, so you're protecting us. You put the plow on the tractor, so therefore it will not snow here.
Right.
We'll keep that up, David.
Okay.
So it is, the firearm season is over, but we've still got the late archery season. We've got the late muzzleloader season, which in much of the state, where I am at least, it's basically a center fire season. I mean, there's a lot of good deer. I don't know about good. There's a lot of deer hunting still available. How about, I don't know, are you done with venison recipes, or can you get another one for us, Dave?
No, we got venison Oscar. We did this for the show.
Yeah.
And we used to sell this at the restaurant as a special, too. And people loved it. So it's on page 99 if you're following along in the cookbook. You need about 8 ounces or so of tender venison steak per person, pounded between saran wrap or plastic wrap, a pound of fancy crab meat, at least a pound of asparagus spears. And you want the tender part only. You can bend it where it breaks. Use that for other things, but the top part there is what we're going to use. Some flour to dredge, 1.5 sticks of butter. Can't use margarine for this. 4 egg yolks, the juice of a lemon, and Tabasco. Or you could use a little bit of white pepper if you don't have any Tabasco. So in a small amount of water, poach the asparagus. Just get it done, but crunchy to the bite, and kind of cool it down a little bit and put it on the side there. So in the you're going to make hollandaise for this. And a lot of people think it's hard, but it's easy peasy. In a stainless steel bowl, you want to put the egg yolks, some lemon juice, a couple tablespoons of warm water, 2 or 3 dashes of Tabasco, and melt the butter while you're doing that. And while it's still very warm, you're going to get ready to make this. Have a pan with boiling water on the stove and a double boiler, like a stainless steel bowl that fits inside of it, with a wire whisk. Whip the eggs to a froth over the boiling water. It might take up to 2 minutes. And once it's nice and fluffy, remove it from the heat, and then whisk in the butter slowly. And you can add the salt and the Tabasco to taste after that. Some people make it in a blender, and it works real good that way too. So you want to warm up the crab meat, dredge the venison steaks in flour after you pounded them down, and brown it in a hot pan. Keep it kind of rare to medium rare, no more. And place the steak on the warm plates that you're going to serve with. And top the steaks with a warm asparagus and warm crab meat, and spoon the hollandaise sauce over the top of everything. And this is a meal just fit for royalty or your family.
Well, you mentioned fancy. This is a fancy one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's fit for royalty, actually.
Well, royalty, as you say, or your family.
Yeah, right.
We
loved it.
Well, I do remember this one, and I remember this one. This one is kind of special because it does look so fancy, and when you present it in front of somebody, this one's kind of a big deal.
You eat with your eyes first, and this is definitely one of them ones that shine on.
What do you mean by that, Dave? What do you mean by that? I've heard you say this before. You eat with your eyes first.
Oh, man, if something looks so good and eye-appealing, you know it's more than likely going to taste great. But first, you're getting your creative juices flowing in your mouth, to try this. So it's one of them dishes that it's just outrageous.
Is cooking in a lot of ways kind of an art form?
Oh yeah, Mike, you know that.
Well, I do,
Yeah,
Dave,
sure
but
is.
I do know that, but you got to give me I got a minute to kill here, okay? So I got to ask.
Gee, okay, come on, Mike.
You got Charlie Bent right over here in the studio laughing too.
That's good, Abe. I didn't mean to make any puns, but yeah.
That's okay.
All right.
That's all right, buddy. I appreciate that. All right, so listen, we've done an awful lot of venison. Let's take a break from venison next week. You surprised me, all right, but let's do something else.
Small game, maybe?
Don't surprise me. Don't tell me.
Oh, okay. We
All
won't
right.
do anything.
All right, David. I'm going to let you go. I'm sufficiently chastised here now. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. Dave didn't mean anything like that, and I didn't really take it wrong. Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. I appreciate him being with me each week, and I appreciate you being with me each week as well. If you can. You got a lot of things going on, but if you can listen to the radio show, or you can sneak in the podcast, I appreciate it. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, if you want to reach out to me, is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com.